know that 42 million trees are cut down every day around the world, totaling 15 billion annually? Namaste people! Welcome to another episode of Get Set Green Season 2. I'm your host Pooja Arvi. In this podcast, I interview entrepreneurs who are working to develop innovative solutions for environmental betterment and sustainability, as well as to inspire sustainable living. In this episode, we have Bernard Pender, who is founder and CEO of Cloudforests.ie. Bernard is an Irish electrical engineer and a founding member of the EcoPlan Group, MP Electrical and Usse.ie. Specifically, he has 10 years of experience in security solutions. Cloudforests.ie was started in 2020 with a goal to create 100 forests along Ireland's Wild Atlantic Way, which is the world's longest defined coastal route of 2,600 kilometers stretch. Welcome to the show, Bernard.
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is ours. Thank you so much for coming and joining us on this episode. I hope that our audience will, enrich their knowledge related to cloud forest.
Well, it's funny that you should say that because that's part of, I suppose, our mission at Cloud Forest is to spread the word and maybe inspire other people to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
We know we can't do everything on our own. So I know as we progress the interview today, I will give you examples of how we've inspired people to maybe create their own cloud forest across the world. So thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. And also, I'm extremely impressed by the idea how the cloud forest is working. And I know that the one who is listening to this will also be. So,
Great.
Yeah. You had a goal of, creating 100 dense forest along this way of this Atlantic way. So can you please tell us why particularly this Atlantic way? And also, if you are doing that, what is the significance of it? So if you
Okay.
can tell us that.
Yeah, so I suppose if we rewind back to the start of the pandemic in February 20, I had built up a large volume of experience in the forestry industry over the previous 20 years. And I sort of knew that people love to visit forests, but they especially love to visit forests that are in beautiful locations. And there is nothing more beautiful in Europe than Ireland's Wild Atlantic Way. If you fly over Ireland's Wild Atlantic Way, the next stop is America. There's only, between Europe and America, and we've got the Atlantic, and this coastline runs from the top of Ireland right the way around to the bottom of it. It encompasses probably 6 counties, which are provinces in Ireland, starting with Cork. We've got Kerry, we've got County Clare, we've got County Galway, Sligo, and County Donegal. So I think I've counted that right. We've got 6 areas there. And what happened in Ireland was we realized the natural beauty of this location along the western seaboard, and we created a tourism aspect to come and see the Wild Atlantic Way. We've got spectacular what I'd call golf courses along that Wild Atlantic Way. We've spectacular restaurants. We've got spectacular viewing. We've the Cliffs and Moher. We've the Achill Island. It is truly beautiful. So what better place to start if you're looking to take action on climate where people are naturally going to visit on their holidays, where people will want to visit. So I set out with a noble goal in April 20. I said, I'm going to create 100 forests along the Wild Atlantic Way. We had no forests at that stage. We had a name called Cloud Forests because the cloud aspect of it, even though there's cloud forests in the upper reaches of mountains in South America and probably in Asia, we felt that we would have a technology aspect to our mission as well. So the cloud is a little bit of a tip of the hat to cloud computing. So I basically re-engaged with people from the forestry industry that I knew, and I asked them to start finding me sites that I was going to buy my first site. And lo and behold, we ended up buying our first site, which was a 30-acre farm just south of a place called the Hinch in County Clare. And the Hinch is world famous. It has a golf course that's in the top 100 of the world. People like Tiger Woods have come there and played it. And so it's a very well-known spot, and it's not too far away from Shannon International Airport. So it's got it's got amazing surfing, and it's got about 5 minutes away from the Cliffs of Moher, which are a very famous scenic route. So we ended up with this site. We ended up calling it Cloud Forest 1, and we started putting cameras up on the site. So the minute we bought the site, we put up cameras from a company called Access Communications, and we started live streaming to YouTube the site that we had. And of course, the minute I did that, people that knew me said, "What are you doing? What are you doing down in Lahinch?" And I was able to then tell them, well, I'm about to start on a mission to create 100 forests, but we're going to do it differently. We're not only just planting trees, we're going to create conservation zones on our forests. We are also then going to have an educational resource. So people will be able to come and visit the forests and learn about things like, I'm going to give you a little bit of out of left field, learn about things like renewable energy, learn about things like Irish native honeybees, who are an endangered species, learn about bats, learn about birds, and learn about frogs. And they said to me, "You are absolutely crazy, Bernard. I think you should go and have a chat with somebody." This is because I had spent the previous 10 years running a very successful security company called Usse.ie. So anyway, cut a long story short, we planted that site in December of 20, our first site, with 21,000 trees from 11 to 12 different species. So we've native Irish trees, we have trees like oak, rowan, alder. We've a small bit of Sitka spruce on the site, which is probably the world's most hated tree. And I'd say that out loud, but we've got it on a part of the site for sequestration purposes. But we've done it differently. We've planted the trees with biodiversity corridors. So we've created corridors on the sites that we've intermingled. So it's not done like a monoculture, it's done like a multi-species site. And I suppose what then passed for us was when the people saw that we were serious, and you're after planting 21,000 trees, you've got this great plans, you're live streaming the site. We're also running time-lapse technology on the site as well, which we've been running for the last 2 years. So we're time-lapsing the growth of the forest. And I said to the people that were acquiring or finding land for me, "Yeah, I'm serious. I want to do 100. So they came to me and they said, "We're after finding another site for you," which is in a beautiful location called Carrigaholt, which has dolphin. You can go dolphin watching. You can go whale watching from there. So everything's coastal based. And we got our second forest, which is Cloud Forest 2. And that is going to be planted in the next 3 to 4 weeks with probably 6,000 trees. We then bought our third site. So we ended up with Cloud Forest 3. And people were starting to realize that when I was naming these 1, 2, 3, they knew there was going to be a fourth, and they knew there was going to be a fifth, right the way up to 100. At this moment in time, we own 5 of our own sites. So I'm 1/20th of the way there. We own the land. Our 5th site was bought on the Dingle Peninsula in County Kerry, which is just further south from our first 4 sites. And the Dingle Peninsula is probably famous. It has, if you do the tour of the Dingle Peninsula, it's got the Skellig Islands where Star Wars was filmed, the latest versions of all the Star Wars movies. So it's a real, if you're into your movies, you can come and you can visit one of our sites. We've a Cloud Forest 5 site there, which is going to be very, it's a departure for us, because it's going to ultimately be a temperate, what they call a European temperate rainforest. So it's being developed all with native Irish trees. It's got 180-degree sea views. It's on the side of a mountain. So it's going to be absolutely spectacular. So I'm here sitting with you today. We've got our 5 sites, and 3 of the sites will be planted. We had a slight hold up with legislation in the country, but 3 of those sites will be planted over the next, I'd say before the end of the planting season, before the end of March, we will plant another 65,000 trees. So ultimately, we will come up close to 100,000 trees since I started on our cloud forests. And that's the story of of the mission that I have to buy Cloud Forest 6 will be the next 7, 8. And we will build this network, and we're lucky enough that we have got amazing support from people. Have asked me, how are you doing this? So one of the things that I've ended up doing is I've got cool partners. So if you go to the Cloudforests.ie website, you will see that we've got, at this stage, we've 50 corporate partners that help us with our funding requirements to build these forests. And that's
Great.
the forest side of the mission. And we may talk later in this podcast about our conservation efforts. And I know you'll find that very interesting.
That's really interesting, and more than interesting, it's really impressive, extremely impressive, I can say. The very fact that you started this, you have this mission of building this 100 forests, and also I should mention the fact to the audience that world's longest defined coastal route of 2,600 kilometers is the whole stretch of this wild Atlantic Way. So, which is very much useful, and also which is very much needed at the like to save this biodiversity of that particular area. Not only that, it is also helping the species which are taking the shelter under this forest. So I would say it's more than amazing what you're doing, and I'm really
Thank you.
happy. I'm really happy to listen to the story. Maybe like instead of asking questions, I would just sit, like listening to whatever you were saying, like the continuous story of that. And I was not having the, like I didn't wanted to interrupt you to have a second cross question. I was like, okay, let me just listen. Yeah. So that was
Good.
really nice. And also,
I think
yeah,
I
please.
think what's really interesting is, when you look at our cloud forests, some people at the start, when we started, thought all we were doing was planting trees. But our mission over the next 12 months is to give a home and a biodiversity, what we call supercharging the biodiversity of the site. So I would love to elaborate on that, because it's really going to be the template for the creation of what is a cloud forest. What
Yeah.
does that mean when we create a cloud forest? So
Yes.
yeah, I'm delighted that you found it impressive. Thank you. Thank you.
And also one more thing, you were also saying the other factor related to, educating the people who are visiting the forest with the like local forest and what is its significance, and then the animals, all those things. So can you please explain bit more about that part, like how exactly will that gonna be done?
Okay, so if you look at if I just talk about our Cloud Forest One site, which is
Hmm.
the first site we've developed, so it's always going to lead. It's always going to be the first forest to
Yeah.
do the things that we want to do. So one of the things that we did when we bought the site, it was an old cattle farm,
Okay.
and it was devoid of life, is what I would say. And I can remember visiting it, and I remarked at the height of summer I didn't see many birds there. It was cows there, cattle, and it was a farm, and we bought it. And over the last 2 years, that site has become alive.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say it's rewilding, because we've planted like 21,000 trees. We haven't let them rewild themselves. But what has happened is, we always felt that we would be able to enhance the biodiversity by doing a couple of things. So the first thing we did was we entered into a mutual agreement with the Irish Native Honeybee Society, who are charged with the protection of the Irish native honeybee. And we ended up getting our first beehives on the site, probably in the middle of last summer, late last summer or the middle of last summer. The bees arrived. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, I said to the beekeepers, if we talk about our conservation end, do we need to plant wildflowers for these guys? And they went, no, these bees will head off for 3 or 4 kilometers. They will land on every wildflower around, and they'll bring back the seeds, and you'll end up with wildflowers grown around the hives. And they also said we'd enough foraging for them there, with furs, and to just let that become wild. So the first people that really arrived that we artificially introduced to the site were our bees and our beehives, and they are thriving. I got the first honey off those beehives when I went down and visited at Christmas. The second thing that we started doing was, we knew there was bats living on the site. So there was old cow sheds. And so what we've ended up doing is we've ended up fitting what we call miniature bat caves. And we now have populations of bats that have more living space, and the bats come out. And if you're there in the summer, we've got this amazing bat show. Um, that Batman would be proud of. I sometimes say that there's bats flying up and down. And we learned an awful lot when we brought an ecologist down who told us that bats fly in corridors. So you just need to know what the corridor is, and you just need to stay out, and you can either have a glass of lemonade or a beer, and you get this amazing show of these bats the minute dusk comes. The next thing that we started doing was we started developing on the site, because the site had a stream. We started the development of frog hopping pools. So we've started to see now frogs on the site. And then probably the biggest excitement that I've had over the last couple of months was when I visited the site that we saw a kestrel. So we've a bird of prey now that has come to the site, and we don't know where he's living yet. And we believe kestrels, which are a sort of probably on an endangered list. We believe kestrels rob other birds' nests. They come across. They'll come across to a crow and say, "Thanks for building that nest, but we're taking it." That's what I'm led to believe. So
Maybe
we've
they
a
might be saying that, but we don't know their language, right?
we don't know their language.
Yeah, yeah,
They might be making a better offer to the crow
yeah.
to head off somewhere. So we've a kestrel living on the site, and our live video now is we're hoping to catch live video of the kestrel in action, because he's hunting in an area of the site that's developed. So he's hovering and hunting. But all the other birds that have come to the site, it's funny, kestrels may go after other birds, but we're starting to see that there's an avian. It's like it's become a sanctuary. And every time I go to Cloud Forest One, I go, this is the roadmap and the template for what we're going to do going forward. So to answer your question on education, every time we have a visitor to Cloud Forest One, they get educated. We've 10 to 11 species of tree on the site. We've got pollinator friendly willow, and we've got alder, we've got rowan, we've got sitka, we've got oak, we've got sycamore, we've got horse chestnut. We've got an amazing array. We even have a burren pine tree, which is an endangered tree, which is grown. If you look at our live video feed, the tree is about 60 years old. It's in the center of our forest. So when people come, we give them an educational journey on tree planting. And we also give them an educational journey on beekeeping, because we've got a viewing gallery over the beehive. So you can come and look at the beehives from a safe distance. You can taste the honey now, because we've started to produce honey from the site. So that inspires people. A couple of people that have left have actually done online courses now to take up beekeeping, which is that's us inspiring them to
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And I think then the last side of it is they get to see, if they're there in the dusk night, they get to see bats. And most people don't know how important bats are to the biodiversity and the ecology of a site, and how they are integral in where they fit in the food chain, and in keeping, other insects down that are probably not as kind to the environment. So from my whole point of view is, we bring all this onto the internet, and we do regular updates from the site so people can learn. And we've got our conservation page on the website as well, so you can learn about what we're doing about our bees and our bats, and we have a new section going up about the birds. So you can come and learn as well. You don't just have to look and see what we're doing. We're very open with our information. So anybody that wants to communicate directly with me, we are always open to say, this is what we're doing. This is what we found works. This is what we found doesn't work. And we've got the scars of things that have not worked for us. But we always refine that, and we ultimately succeed. So education is going to be big for us the next 12 months, because we are going to bring, what we are hoping to do is we're hoping to bring live video from inside one of our hives onto the internet, which we may be the first to do that. It'll be live video streaming from inside the hive, with temperature, and we'll see what these bees are up to when in behind closed doors. So that's all part of our educational mission.
That would be a splendid journey, to actually monitor those things and to even see those changes. Like in a time lapse, you can see how does it change over the span of time. That's something to really look out for. Also, going back to the point where you were saying they would say thank you, I think they would be saying, cool, Bernard, now that you're building all these trees, nice. And also, FYI, We don't have any sponsorship from Batman and we are not sponsoring, but still, if he's listening to this, we would be happy to, like collaborate with him. Like I'm giving the open thumbs up saying, like, if you are listening, please do let me
Yeah.
know. Yeah. And
The,
also,
the, 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 the wonderful thing about our sites are with from a technology end,
mm-hmm.
Cloudforest One is connected to Starlink, which is the Elon Musk's satellite broadband. So
Okay.
it doesn't matter how remote our sites are.
Mm-hmm.
If we can even if we do renewable power on the site, we can get fast broadband, which brings our sites onto the internet. So yeah, and there's another plug for Elon. If Elon's listening to your show
Yeah, if
tonight, he might.
Elon is listening, you can reach out to Bernard or like you can ask, like we can have one more collaboration. Like,
Yeah.
and also not only them, if someone like who they know Elon or like Batman, they can also go and pitch our idea. Like we are totally happy about that.
Completely,
Yeah,
completely.
right, right. And also you were saying about this Starlink satellite monitoring all those things, no? Can you tell us like how exactly that is being done? So
Oh,
the
okay. So
direct data
yeah,
is taken by the satellites or like for, GIS monitoring or like to get the data from the site. How does that happen?
yeah. So on our site, we built our first what we call our Cloud Forest broadcast units. So because I come from 10 years and we've got a company called Usse.ie in our
Yeah.
portfolio of businesses, and it's skill sets where live video monitoring, remote video monitoring. So what
Mhm.
we've built on the site is we've got a broadcast unit that has two cameras doing time lapse. So built by a very famous company, probably one of the biggest surveillance companies in the world, Access Communications. They're owned by Canon, the Japanese conglomerate. So these cameras are very high end cameras. They can the two cameras that are time lapse and they time lapse. They're built for it. They run a small technology in it that allows them to write time lapse to a store station. We then have another camera there that's for live video of our gift tree grove, which I will touch on probably near the end. And one of the things that we're running on that is an application called CamStreamer. And what CamStreamer allows us to do is it allows us to transmit live video across the internet and embed it anywhere. We can embed it in our website, which we've done. We can embed it in YouTube, but we need a high bandwidth satellite connection. So we weren't able to get it in rural Ireland. We were just too far away from the exchange, and then Elon Musk started putting up multiple satellites in a constellation around the Earth, and we were in their beta program, and we ended up getting an email one day saying, "We've got a satellite dish for you. Where do we send it?" And they sent a dish down, which we pointed at the sky, and we get super fast broadband. So we get roughly about 300 megabits down and about 60 megabits up, which is incredible. It's a thing. So we transmit all our live video and we do all our remote and our virtual visits over that satellite constellation that Elon's building. And that's a roadmap for us now on all our other sites. We will connect them and they'll be like cyborg forests, is what we call them.
Mhm.
Nearly like
Yeah.
robo forests that they've got a technological aspect. So that's how that works. We've built the broadcast unit, and we can do a live broadcast anytime.
Mhm.
And one thing I'll promise you is when you release this episode, I will put the episode and your link to your podcast up on our site for a week. So we can do a ticker tape down the bottom, and that will tell the world about your podcast, and it'll show you what we're capable of doing.
Oh, okay, let's take a moment. I'm truly humbled by your suggestion, and I'm as well as happy as well, like to be a part of
Yeah.
something like this. If I want to share a story about myself, is like I am a person who is totally into this. Like I like nature, and when I see things like pollution or cutting downs of trees and birds having no proper place to stay, so they are going extinct. And like it is a chain reaction, so everything is getting spoiled up. So when I see that, I feel extremely, helpless and hopeless. So that is the main reason why I started this podcast, to reach out to people who are working towards change, and also to make sure that people are getting their stories. Like I want to reach out to people and say, hey, there are people who are working towards this, and you can bring the change if you want to. I want to say that story. And even if the person who is listening to this now is inspired and it does a very little bit, like, like switching off the electricity when not in use, or at least consuming mindfully, then I will be like most happy and satisfied with what I'm doing. So I
Great.
don't, yeah.
And great. And one of the things that we wanted to do was on our Cloud Forest One site, we've got an eco retreat, which not many people know about. You may
Mhm.
have picked up on it maybe on if you did a Google search, but we've been developing. There was an old house on the site that wasn't inhabitable, so it was just broken down. It had been left to rack and ruin. We have took that house back and we have renovated it over the last 2 years, and it's completely off grid. So when we launch it, you can come and stay on the Wild Atlantic Way in the middle of one of our forests and see how renewable energy works. So you can get a sample of what I call off-grid living. And then what we have on the side as well is we've electric car charging. So if you come in your electric car, you can charge. And then through our partnership with one of our cool partners, Decathlon, which is the multinational sports retailer, and we are going to have electric bicycles. So electric powered
Yeah,
bikes,
yeah.
which means that you can go for a cycle and do a long cycle and then use the electric to get back to the house. And it might inspire people that come on holiday to maybe use that type of transport for going to work, which is another decarbonisation education. If I was to come back to an educational aspect, so that's
That's
it's gonna
great. And it sounds
yeah.
so incredible that, it's tempting me to book my flights, go there, come down there, and actually see how things are happening. That's so exciting also at the same time. So, Bernard, can you also tell us one thing? Because as I was reading through, I saw that you have separate companies, like you have electrical background, you're working in the securities, cameras, all those things, and then you have dense huge amount of experience in also eco plan, if I can say. You are working on that part as well. So gaining experience from various, like different aspects which you did in your whole life, can you tell us one point, like what made you to come and what the learning you got from this?
Okay, so I started my career as a network electrician. So I worked on what I call networks, where it's the bringing the power to your home for
Mm-hmm.
the local utility company here in Ireland. So I got a really good grounding in generating electricity, distribution of electricity, and the efficiency of how electricity should be used. So that obviously changed, stuck with me when I was a very young person.
Mm-hmm.
I got amazing education. And over a period of time, then I always had an entrepreneurial to run my own business. I always wanted to go out and maybe do things differently than were, maybe done in the past. And I ended up in security by default. So I ended up, because I was an electrician, I ended up branching into security, which was high end video, which was live streaming, which is all the things we now do in Cloudforest.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose in the late 2007 period, probably around 2007, 2008, I had the good fortune to invest in a forestry company, which was called Ecoplan. And I learned so much there. It was a company that operated out of the Midlands. And I was truly inspired by what the people that were running that company were doing in terms of how they managed forests, how they promoted biodiversity, how they always did the right thing. And I suppose I spent then from 2010 to 2020 always thinking of being back in the forest, back doing things like creating habitats, but with a slant of bringing technology as well into it. And I suppose without COVID coming, and the pandemic has changed so many things for so many people. We've got remote working now, and we've got people that, when COVID came, they started working from home. They started to realize maybe, things, how they wanted to, things they wanted to do that were different. And I was no different. I just ended up in a scenario where I just wanted to get back into the forestry and do more for the planet. And I sat outside my back garden, and true as God, I was like, right, I'm going to do this, because you couldn't do anything else. I'm just said I'm going to build it. So COVID is the creator of cloud forests.
Oh.
It finally did something good, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the essence of it.
There is a saying that whatever the good and bad in life is actually good, in terms of like even the bad things are like in a way it's a good, right? So like maybe the COVID is the one thing which triggered you, like to see this point of view of the life and also to address this. That's great. And also even I would agree, because during the COVID time I started thinking more and more, dwelling on these thoughts, like how to do, what to do. I would totally agree with that. So coming in, Bernard, when you had this solid idea of planting all these forests, so it also requires, human resource for this to come into action, because getting the trees and saplings, sorry, not trees, yeah, saplings, getting saplings and then actually working on this project. So that would need a certain amount of, finance and budgeting part of this as well. So can you please let us know how did you actually manage that part?
So I suppose we've been lucky enough to have a very successful business, um, which had surplus funds, and we invested that money into the Cloud Forest project. So um, I don't know whether we'll ever get that money back, but um, we had the money there, and then as soon as we started live streaming and putting up our social posts and communicating with the world what we were doing, I ended up getting a lot of calls from people that I knew saying, "How can we support you? This is amazing. This is truly inspiring." And they're the words that they were using, and I was sort of blown away. And I suppose that's when our Cool Partner program was born. So anybody, any business of any size can join the Cloud Forest mission by signing up to be a Cool Partner.
Mm-hmm.
We have 51 businesses signed up, from some of the biggest companies in the world to some of the smallest companies in the world. And everybody pays a small annual fee, and they become a member of the mission. And we give them an annual planting day
Mm-hmm.
where they're able to come and plant their own trees. We allow them create their own little space on one of our sites that they can really call their own. And that's really what's funded our later growth. So while our business Usse.ie funded the first part of what we were doing, it's really our Cool Partner community now that's paying their annual fee, and that supports our employment, supports our future, acquisition of sites, and supports our growth. I suppose the third aspect that we probably have then as well is that we've got a couple of products that we sell. So we've gift trees, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to give you 5 gift trees to give away to your listeners, which
Yeah.
will be planted in the next 2 or 3 weeks on our Cloud Forest One site with live video streaming. I'll send you an email probably tomorrow with a
Mm-hmm.
unique code on it, and that's another thing that funds our mission. So we normally sell our gift trees for they're a premium product, but that's what funds our mission. We sell them on our website. So that's where all the money sort of comes in, that's reinvested into our board boxes and bat boxes and our conservation work. So I'll send you 5 that you can give away to your listeners, and you can probably keep one to yourself. And once you register the tree with us, we will, or your listeners, we will tell you the whole life story of that tree as it grows, and you can virtually visit any time because we have a full live video stream of that site. So that's how we fund our mission.
That's too generous of you for, for giving us away for all these 5 trees for us. And also to the one who is listening to this, you can also be the one who will have this tree. So keep listening and keep sharing the podcast. Bernard, that was really an incredible story, being an
Thank you.
engineer and then starting this, you having a different experiences and also how you are putting through all the efforts. Adding to this, I would also like to say, when you start doing something good, which is much needed for the planet or Earth, everyone, so you will find the support in one way or the other way. This is what I'm getting from your story, right? It's not like you had a solid plan, planned out everything, like this is what I'm gonna do, this is where I'm gonna get, this is the funding I will be having, and all those planning sort of like it worked out, since the purpose which you were having was it is a really genuine and a good purpose which you are serving for this. right now, and it's like most currently the most required one, if I can say, because carbon capture, carbon sequestration, and carbon footprint, everything is most related to trees. Also, I want to say one more thing, that no matter how much technology or like how much we are investing in AI or artificial intelligence, at the end of the day, what I feel is like planting a tree. As I started the podcast saying the same theme, planting a tree will give you a hope, because it is as simple as doing, not really simple, but like, yeah, instead of going into, like mind boggling things are there, like you do what, how do we solve this, like we need technology, yeah, we do need it, but to actually solve the problems, it's really simple. If we see from that perspective, that was coming out of my mind, so I just wanted to share with you as well.
I
That's
think I think when we did our first cloud forest, people said to me, where our business is going to come that are going to support this. And I saw an old film, and it's a Kevin Costner movie, and it's Field of Dreams.
mm-hmm.
And Cloud Forest One was my Field of Dreams. And I said to somebody, I'm going to build it and they will come. And that's probably changed to now we will plant the trees and they will come. And the people have come because it's an easy way to get involved without having to do any of the hard work we've done.
Yeah,
We sort of give you the easy way to get involved. So yeah, that's what's happened. Good things happen to when you do good things, I think.
yeah, I totally agree. 100% I agree with this. That's totally true as well. Also, Bernard, coming along the way, as you were saying, having this hope and having the dream, what I want to say from my side is like dreaming and believing it is like in itself is a achievement, because once you start believing it, only then will you be able to execute it. That's one part of it. Also, if you would like to say, three things to the listener who is listening, if you would like to three things in terms of business or in terms of your personal life, give away, like since they were listening to the episode, they got to know who Bernard Pender is. So if they want to take away three giveaways from you, what would that be?
Okay, I think the first thing is you always have to have a dream,
Yes.
and that you may never reach what your dream is, but having a dream is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing I would say is follow follow your beliefs, follow your inner voice, because that will get you it will get you to where you need to be, and it may get you to what your dream is. And then the last thing I would say is enjoy the journey, no matter no matter what happens, enjoy the journey. So always there will be ups, there will be downs, but always approach it with a smile on your face and try and see the funny side of it. Um, and that's what I would say. They're the three takeaways I would take away from my life. I have had a great journey, and it hasn't always been a wonderful journey, but I've had a great journey. So
That's so
that's all I would
sweet.
say to your
Yeah.
listeners.
So the three main takeaways were from him was like, first one is to have a dream, dream big. And also the second one, most important one, to believe in your intuition or yourself or your beliefs, your principles, to go by that and stand by that and to voice for that, which is most important. And the third one is to live happy life. Also, being, like not too much worrying about things and having a slight, perfect balance, juggling up the things. You need to focus on all those things. That were three key takeaways from our guest today, Bernard Pender, and it was really amazing to have you on the show.
Ending this with a quote from Lucy Lacombe: "He who plants a tree plants a hope. Please plant a tree or plant. It makes huge impact on planet Earth." If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a comment. I would love to read them. You can find me on Instagram at getsetgreen.in. You can DM me if you have any suggestions, or even via email. The 3 R's of sustainable living are reuse, recycle, and most importantly, reduce. Stay tuned until next episode. Bye. Take care.